Parking brakes, it's required, you have to have those set every time you get off the lift. I've had several customers in the past 18 months with OSHA inspections, something as simple as that, $750. The brake's either on or off. If it's not on, we're gonna be cited if they're walking through. So again, I don't share that to scare anybody, I share that because from an enforcement standpoint, OSHA's out there and they're making a very heavy stance on breaking employers. So we don't want to have that issue here. So remember the parking brake. What about the hydraulic controls? Should be in neutral when we're ready to get off the lift. Should we leave our forks up or should we put them down, rested forward, just slightly tilted? Okay, very good. If you see that where they're left up, they're resting on the ground, but maybe they're not tilted forward, could create a tripping potential. Make sure we're addressing that with the manager. All right. You're laughing. Marcus, is this something you do? Leave your forks up. No. We have a daily inspection of the forklift that should be taking place. I'm not sure if we're consistent with that. Does anybody know what I'm talking about, those that drive?
Yeah.
Leaks
Okay.
and cracks.
Leaks?
Cracks.
Cracks? Cracks of what? The forks?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a visual inspection and there's an operational check too. It's a simple checklist, it's a form, but it does need to be performed in the eyes of OSHA under the standard once a shift. We're not running 24/7, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so then once a
Every
shift.
shift.
Yep. Okay. Who's keeping those documents?
I do.
Okay. 2 months worth is all you need to find out if I was sharing that with you.
No, you
You don't need to keep it here. 2
Got
months.
it forever.
No.
Good.
So the reason that the inspection's important is because if we have any issues with a forklift, we get it out of service and put it in maintenance for repair. So we're not jeopardizing anybody's safety on the job. Okay. Battery charging areas, do we have electric lifts or LP?
We have both.
Both, one of each? Okay. Let's talk about the electric first. We have a battery charging area, right?
Yep.
Do we have an eye wash station close by? Okay, everybody knows where that's at? Who inspects the eye wash? Are we doing that?
Maintenance.
Okay, how often are you doing that?
Every month.
Every month, okay, good. So you got records on that, keeping it, okay, good. Again, under the OSHA standard with forklift safety, if there's a charging area you need in close proximity, they say an eye wash station, so we're covered. Doesn't do us any good if we're not inspecting that, we go to use it, and we're actually doing more damage to our eyes than good, so glad to hear.
And our eye wash station is also set up for hot water, so it's not ice cold water going into your eyes.
Okay.
I don't know if it would
But
do
you have
that.
to let it run.
Is it hard pipe plumbed?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not a gravity fed. Okay. So the hard pipe, the ones like we have, we don't exercise the valve and turn them on and let them flush out. There's a potential there that the rust builds up in the lines, and that's the biggest concern, is all the stuff. We have rust in the water.
That's why we inspect them on
Perfect, okay. The LP tanks, where do we change out the tanks for the forklift that we have with gas?
Wherever it
By the
dies.
furnace.
Okay, wherever it dies. Good point, it's honest, I mean, that's great, that's the reality of it. If we know it's getting low, obviously, we try to use our best judgment, bring it back to where the tanks are staged. Let me ask you then, okay, so now your forklift's on the opposite end of the plant here, and you gotta get another tank. How do you go through that process? What would you do?
Shut the valve up under the tank, well, put the e-brake on, then you
Okay?
shut the valves under the tank, carry the tank out to where the tanks are kept, grab a new one, hook it up, tighten it, open the valve, flip
Okay.
the empty one upside down so they know that the empty ones are upside down.
Is the cage outside?
They're kept in the shed outside.
Okay, okay. Did anybody,
Forgot to bring his fork.
hearing what he said, and you may know where I'm going with this, was there anything we picked up that maybe we have an opportunity of maybe reducing the risk of a potential injury, such as a back or a slip, trip, and fall injury? Anybody pick that up, what he does? The process he described, or what he's doing?
Carries the tank all the way out to where the.
Cart.
Wheel of tank, full tank over
Very good. Instead of carrying it, I'm not saying you can't handle it, because I'm sure you lift a lot of weights and different types of products here that are heavy. But a full tank, I'm guessing, is probably close to 50 pounds, isn't it? Pretty close.
Maybe even more.
No,
Most
it's
of
less
it,
than
I would
that.
say.
I'd say anywhere between 30 and 45.
Okay, so let's say it's 30, let's go and lay it. We're carrying 30 pounds, and we gotta go to the opposite end of the building to go to the outdoor shed, whatever it is. We forgot that, I forget your name? Larry? Yeah. Yes. Okay, let's say Larry had a cord where he's working that he's using a power tool. You know, you haven't walked through there before, now you're coming through the area to go over the quickest route to the shed, and you trip on the cord, and all of a sudden you fall, and before you know it, you got a black eye and everything else. It's an injury now. What we were looking at, what I was trying to get at is, do we have a cart available? Why carry the defect? You know, you might be walking, I think it's more than probably 40 yards, but any potential chance that we're taking to lift something when we don't have to, the risk of injury is greater. So if we have a cart, we have a dolly, put it on the dolly, so it takes us a little bit to go get the dolly. I think it's worth our time doing that. You know, every individual is a little bit different. You know, I can see that you probably, you know, you may weigh more than the other forklift driver. So is the tank going to be just as heavy for you as it is for someone else? Everybody has their own strength. So it may not be an issue, but are we taking an increased risk of injury from a trip or from a lifting exposure? Absolutely. Do we have dollies available? Is that something we could do?
One.
Okay, we got one. Okay. Would you be willing to, next time you have to change out a tank, grab a cart or a dolly?
No.
Too much time? How much time do you have when you're in the doctor's office because your back is?
It's not about how much time I have, it's about how much time I told I have.
Right.
Whoa.
So,
That's true. Am I lying?
Guess you're gonna have to go through some training.
2.3 minutes to get that tank checked.
Put it this way, what if there's a procedure written for it, and he doesn't follow the procedure, and he gets hurt?
Great
There's not a
point.
procedure written
Great
for it,
point. Do we need a procedure? That's the first question. We may want to look at a procedure. Again, we want to try to be consistent. Certain individuals can do certain things, but the one time a brand new employee does the things that are expected but aren't, you know, down on paper, we open ourselves wide open. I think it's a great idea. I think we should have a procedure. Why are we lifting more than we have to? If we've got mechanical tools available, aids available, if it's a matter of understanding from a management's perspective to say, hey, we're going to give you an extra 2 minutes, go get the hand cart and go and get the tank you need. Because if someone gets injured, we're going to come back and say, we knew it. We were just taking a chance, a risk. Would you object to cart? Dolly? So we'll look at that, yes.
I was just wondering, are you guys the guys who are required to wear a glove when they change these tanks?
Good point.
We were by the other place I did work last, we were required by OSHA to wear a glove when we changed that tank. The reason is that gas is very cold,
Yeah.
coming out, if you shut that valve off all the way, you could actually get burned.
Yeah, we used to have, where I used to drive forklift, we used to have a big rubber glove that came up here.
When you change out
Yeah.
tanks.
If you remember in the safety videos that I show you for forklift, when I give you your license, they show you how to change the tank with gloves on.
Where are the gloves?
Whoa.
We're all around the shop.
Yeah, but
You
that
can get 'em
raw
from
leather
anybody.
one ain't gonna stop that cold from coming through that glove. That's why you get rubber gloves.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a note of this, you know, I'm gonna just create a list as we go through this. These are all good things, this is why we have meetings like this. I think we're learning something from this simple example of changing out an LP tank. That number one, we may benefit from a policy of everybody doing it the same. We can look at personal protective equipment that maybe we're not using right now that maybe we should be using. And then we need to obviously hold each other accountable for it. So I'm gonna put down on here that you'll look into the tanks and then the gloves, and then follow back up with the operators on how we want that done.
Would oven gloves for 100 degrees be good?
I think the big thing is just something to protect your skin. You don't want the raw skin on. So I mean, I don't honestly, to me, I don't care if it's blue nitrile glove or if it's, you know, oven glove. The little brown jersey might be a little bit light, but, you know, I'm sure we have gloves here that we don't
We'll
have to
have to see if we have a
special.
policy on that, otherwise I can incorporate that in our training for forklift training.
Okay.
The
Good.
reason you would rush too is depending on where the forklift dies, you might run into some comments here and there like, why is it in the way, you know, hurry up, you know, just. stuff like that can happen.
Can I ask a question with the operators? When you're getting low on gas, you know,
Yeah.
you can pretty much
Yeah,
say,
there's
okay.
stages sputtering.
Do you have a grace period? Do you have 30 seconds, or that's it?
You get as close back to the back as you can, if it starts sputtering.
Do you look at the gauge, do your inspection checklist, probably at the beginning of the shift, you're looking at the gauge to see what the gas reads, correct? That might be something we could look at. If we become more observant of how full is that tank at the beginning of our shift, we're probably gonna be a little bit more cautious, or, you know, we'll feel, okay, now I know it's going. The gas is gonna be gone, so now I need to go back and change it out. You know, is it really worth waiting until we're stuck? We can't do nothing. You know what I mean?
You can check the gas every day in the morning before you start.
Change it, check it? Yeah, yeah.
Well, if it starts putting, it's better off just to change it before you run out dead.
Absolutely,
You know?
absolutely.
Pull it outside and change it.
You know? So there's some things we can do. By doing that, we eliminate the cart. We don't have to go find it. The hand dolly your truck. We can get out to where the storage shed is. It's our best case scenario. Okay? Good. Other forklift safety issues. Do we have a cage that goes on the forks at all to lift someone up?
Not anymore.
Okay, that's gone, good, okay. I'll share a story, this was a customer of mine about a week and a half ago, I'll be 2 weeks tomorrow. It's a Saturday, unfortunately it revolves around an employee that lost his finger. And it was due to a forklift incident. It was, I'll share the description of it, and then you guys talk about it for a minute, and then I'll ask some questions, but here's how it went down. It was Friday afternoon, about 4:30, a delivery came in. And the forklift operator, who's very experienced, about 27 years on the lift, good employee, he unloaded the truck, and where they normally put the shipment, there was an obstruction. There was 2 vehicles in the parking stall where it was supposed to go. So he decided to put it somewhere else, okay? So now it's time, everybody goes home, it's after 5. Next morning comes 7:15, first thing they have to do is they're looking for the shipment, and it's not where it was supposed to be. So they kind of look around and uncover it that, okay, it's out in a different area. And the forklift operator says, hey, you know, Johnny, come and help me. We gotta move this product, it's a little unstable. And what happens is the unstable load needs some support. So the forklift operator says what? Johnny, jump on the forks, sure. See if you can weight this down a little bit. I just only need to go 100 yards. That wasn't working really well, so then he decided he walked alongside of it, you know, and held it as the forklift driver was moving. And then they say, well, let's rethink this. So they stop. Johnny puts his hand up on the mast of the forklift. What does the forklift driver do? Puts the load down. Ouch. His finger's gone. Wow. 17-year-old kid, no longer has a finger. Obviously, the mother and the father are extremely disappointed, very, very angry, very frustrated with the employer. From an OSHA standpoint, OSHA was not involved. They haven't been that I know of as of yet. They could get involved, depending on what happens in the future here. Workers' comp standpoint, 17-year-old is actually a minor, so he's got other complications. He's treated as an adult. He's treated as full-time benefits, even though he's only putting a couple hours in a week. This thing's a mess. So now there's fingers pointed. The forklift operator's feeling terrible. You can see where I'm going with this. So that's how quick it happens. It only takes one little thing to change someone's life forever. So thinking back in what I described, take just a minute, you can talk about it. What is the root cause of that accident? Let's see if we can.
Cars
Okay?
being parked in the wrong spot.
Good. Why it occurred in the first place, when you ask the question why, let's go back and let's say, why was the load where it wasn't supposed to be? Well, there were some cars that were.
They need to follow the procedure.
Procedure?
Yeah. When they have a correct procedure, they need to put the load where they supposed to be, where they went.
Exactly. That's all part of it. But the shipment where it was dropped, to me, is the first issue. Why the vehicles were in the way where it was normally supposed to go, no one addressed it. everybody's ready to get out of it.
What
Yes,
type of, was the,
type of business?
well, no, the product, the load.
It's actually, compared to like an auto salvage yard, so there's some type of, an auto, I don't know if it was a hood, fender of some sort on a pallet. And I could see that because it's oblong and it's not packaged, it's kinda out in the open. It was something like that.
As you say, it was like, you know, boxes that were, they could have broken
Yeah.
down. And
No, it wasn't, it was more, I think, kind of a combination of a bunch of stuff, you know.
So you got on the forks to like stabilize the load or something?
Yeah. That was another good point though. We should never stand on a load, right? No passengers are ever allowed on a load. That's one thing they did, and he got away with it, you know. Then even walking alongside a load can be extremely dangerous. You know, as a 27-year forklift operator, should he have recognized that this was probably not the best way to do it? Absolutely.
Try to take a shortcut, get it done, and you're over with.
Right. The reality is, I've got to get this done. I've got to move this stuff. We got to find a way. That's how it happens. But if the two vehicles weren't where they originally were parked, then we could have put the product where it belongs from the first place. Would have resolved everything.
Should have took the forklift and picked the vehicles up.
Should have. So I share that because that's real. I mean, that's, you know, within 2 weeks old, and I just had an email from a client yesterday. It was up in Superior. I don't know if anybody heard there was a fatality up in Superior, a worker. I don't know all the details of what happened with that one. But we want you all to go home the same way you came into work. You know, it's not fun when you have an industrial accident. It's not fun when OSHA's at our door. It's not fun when we're obviously very busy and we have to figure out how to get the work out the door. But remember, don't jeopardize your safety. You guys are all responsible for yourselves, and that's why we want to address any concerns that you may have today. So that pretty much summarizes the forklift end of it. We'll move into the next OSHA topic. At 2 o'clock, we're going to take a break. Okay? 5-minute break at 2. So at 2. Okay?
Not yet.
I can't see.
That's the other.
Do we have any confined spaces here?
No.
Okay, good. Let's tackle the OSHA activity then. Right now, OSHA, as I mentioned, they're very, very aggressive. The focus is inspections. The current administration, it's more, they're not coming in to pat us on the back necessarily and tell us how good we're doing with our safety program. They're coming in, they're finding something they're going to be saying. I've been involved in a couple of informal conferences since the beginning of the year with customers, and we're defending our position to bring down the cost of what the fines were. And I don't share that again to scare any of us. I just want us to be prepared. What will OSHA do if they come in? Does anybody know? What's kind of the procedure? First of all, they're going to hopefully stop at the front or knock or, you know, talk to the receptionist. Make sure we require credentials from them. We can put them in a conference room, you know. First thing they should do is explain the reasoning why they're here. Anybody know why they're typically involved?
Because somebody ratted on the company.
Someone ratted on them, that's one of the reasons. Employee complaints could be the ratting. If we're on a hit list because our injuries are way out of check, which we're not, so that's good news for us. But if our injuries are higher than the average, then we could be on a list of their targeted inspections. If we had a fatality here, they're going to be involved 100%. If we had 3 or more employees that are hospitalized due to some type of an industrial accident, they're going to be here. Some of the 911 calls, I shouldn't say some, most of them, all of them, I should say, are screened. Whether they come out, that's their decision. Milwaukee and Waukesha County now, all 911 calls, there's a specific agreement between the law enforcement agency and OSHA that the police department will call and let OSHA know this is an industrial accident. It's up to OSHA to come and follow up if they want. I've had that on several of my customers. What is that telling us? Don't call 911? No. If we need to, we call 911, but we just need to be prepared. I had a customer early in January, another forklift incident that I'll quickly share and then we'll take a break. metal fabrication shop, local, and they have, it's a stamping operation, so they get these coils of steel in. Some of you may have seen this before. They come in different widths, dimensions, weights. This coil roll, they call it a roll, came in at 2,000 pounds. It comes on a pallet, small one. They go up to several, 10,000 pounds easy. But they come on pallets. And the coil is either woven, spun this way, or it's spun this way. So if my press is on this side, and the coil is spun this way, so this is the end, an operator will have to remove the coil from the pallet. Their typical process was to set it down with a sling onto the ground, turn it 180 degrees, reattach it, and then set it on the machine for the unwinding process to take place. So you got a 50% chance when the shipment comes in whether the coil is spun the right way or the wrong way, and whether you're going to have to change it up. Well, this day the employee had to obviously change it. There was an example of a temporary helper. There was a forklift operator that has done this. He's been doing this job for the last 6 years. A temporary employee, and this is how this all unfolded, was the temp employee was not involved in this job. Never done it before. Wasn't even supposed to be in the area, working next to the forklift operation that was taking place. But decided, hey, I'll help John out. So he went over there, and as soon as he got over there, when the forklift driver brought down the coil roll onto the ground to rest it, and these typically, I mean, they're not going to move. They're pretty heavy, when you set a roll like that down. The challenge was we had a sling attached to this. We had to reverse the sling, so this thing spun the other direction, like if you're on a swing set, and kids wind themselves up. Same concept. And as soon as the sling came down, we got some tension. There was then slack in the sling. The temp employee pulled it, or what happened? Enough energy where the whole coil come down on top of him. The guy ultimately, unfortunately, lost his leg. It was not a pretty sight. There was a lot of blood exposure. There's a lot of lessons that were learned. It's a temp issue. There's now the temp service coming after the employer. You've got attorneys from the temp service versus the employee, or the employer's attorneys. This thing just blew up. 3 weeks later, OSHA comes knocking on the door. So now we go through round one. Now OSHA's in. Ultimately, they cited him because of an unsecured strap for the coil. Doesn't do any justice. The guy's leg is gone. Never going to have it again. He was extremely apologetic. He originally said, I know I was in the wrong. I shouldn't have been over there. All those stories now have changed. It gets in the hands of some of the legal firms. We'll see what that unfolds. Again, I don't share that because I'm not trying to threaten any of us. This is what happens. This is how quick it turns. So that example is something that I think hits home. That employee did not know he was going to come home that night or wasn't going to come home.
Was that the temp employee that lost his leg?
The temp employee was the one, yeah. So then they also, on top of that, you have a forklift driver trying to live with this picture in his head. This guy comes out in front of me and, before I can say stop, it's over. Now the coil, remember, that fell is pinned on this guy. Now we still have to remove the coil. Remove the coil, get the forklift operator ended up, I guess I kind of envisioned it like a scoop, a snow shovel. And it came off him, and 911 was called. They put a tourniquet on the leg. It was just a mess. But that stuff can happen, and it can happen very quickly. It can change all of our lives. So we need to be safe on forklifts. We need to be safe and take safety serious with any type of policy and procedure that we know we have in here at Grover. So with that, while we take a 5-minute break, we'll come back and continue on.